All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you so much for watching, for listening. However you are consuming this podcast, it means a great deal to me. So thank you very much. Big shout out to both our sponsors. Sunny Reds, 1841 Aber Road, just down the way from Highmark Stadium. I've been doing a lot of live shows there. I will continue to. It's one of my favorite spots in all of Western New York. Great food, great drinks, great vibes, and also, of course, Imperial Pizza with two locations, 1655 Main Street, not far from Canisius College, and the one that is close to my heart, in the heart of South Buffalo, 1035 Aber Road, home of the best lunch special literally anywhere in town, and one of the most popular and well-liked pizza wing joints, not just in Buffalo, but all of Western New York, and for really, really good reasons, man. They are really one of the best. All right, folks, this is our Tuesday podcast episode, and I am going over my biggest Buffalo Bills Week 4 takeaways after spending a lot of time watching film, going through the All-22, pouring through some stats, looking at some PFF grades. Of course, as always, take them with a grain of salt. A much more measured show than our live reaction show, which for me personally, I love doing this show because things that I thought in real time during the game or on the instant live show right after the game, you know, sometimes you confirm what you saw was correct, and sometimes you're wrong. And some of both of that I'll be talking about here on the show today. Do want to let you know, too, so when I'm doing these clips now, look, I'm not Cover One. I'm not Eric Turner, Anthony Prohaska, not Joe Marino or any of those guys. But what I am doing is, when I'm studying these clips, is taking at least 8 to 10 of them and screenshotting them and putting them up on my Twitter for everybody to digest. Some plays that I think are pivotal moments or pivotal plays or things that will support a player playing well or quite the opposite. So all that stuff's up on my Twitter. So if you're not following me on Twitter and you want to go check out a nice solid handful of clips from this game on Sunday, some prominent moments from the game, make sure you hit up my Twitter at Patrick Moran TB and go check that out. And also a quick reminder too, I try to talk about this team when I'm on this show, Talking Buffalo, objectively. I am not a homer on here. I am not a hater on here. At least, again, I try not to be. I try to be objective. But at the same token, I am a Buffalo Bills fan. I'm not going to sit there and try to act like I'm not for the purpose of this show or for anything. So I always feel it's important for you to know that about me. But I'm still going to tell you my truth anyway. Some things I talk about, you'll agree with. Other things, you won't. And that is perfectly fine. Game days, you know, you'll see me if you follow me on Twitter. You'll see the full gamut of emotions with me on any Bills game day. Complete overreactions, highly emotional, charged up. I am a fan on Twitter during these games. Sometimes that might trickle over a little bit anyway to the live instant reaction shows that we do here on Talking Buffalo as well. Pretty lively one yesterday with Joe from Queens, in fact. But this weekly episode, the takeaways episode, I feel what I say today is very measured and with the benefit of time to think, to ponder, and more importantly, the tape to, like I said, either confirm what I thought or, you know, dispute what I thought about some things coming in. And I also think it's important to say this, just generally speaking, this is not a specific takeaway from watching film. This is just a general Buffalo Bills or sports or life takeaway, I guess. The Bills won the game, okay? They didn't win with style points per se. There's plenty to nitpick, plenty to criticize, and I'm going to on a good chunk of this episode, quite frankly. But it's worth reminding everyone, of course, it's always most important to remember that winning is what matters in the NFL. And winning in the NFL is never easy. I don't care who the opponent is. I was at Wingnuts on Saturday for Perino and Talbot's Shout Live podcast. Mitch Morse was a guest there. I had an opportunity to spend just a couple minutes chatting with him. I was right there up front. I was shooting some B-roll stuff during their podcast. And Mitch Morse talked about this. You know, he spent most of his career with the Chiefs and the Bills, but his last season he played with Jacksonville, and they sucked. And he was forecasting this Bills-Saints game before it happened. And he said, the Saints are going to come in there hungry with nothing to lose. There's no real bad teams in the NFL. These are the best football players in the world. And they're going to come in there loose. And that's what they did. He almost got the final score absolutely spot on, by the way. Mitch Morse picked it 31-21 Buffalo. The final score ended up being 31-19. Point being is that Mitch was saying, games are never easy in the NFL. There is no easy games. Maybe fans think that way, but the players, the coaches, personnel, they definitely don't. So the Bills win the game, and they've now won 4 times without a loss this season. And in doing so, they are the only remaining undefeated team right now in the AFC. So only 1 of 2 in the entire NFL alongside Philly. It's just really important to point out before we get into nitpicking and criticizing. I have not lost, and hopefully you haven't either, the general perspective of, hey, this team, though they're not without flaws, they are 4-0. They are undefeated. They are exactly where you would hope they would be before they kicked off against Baltimore. If you could have said moments before that kickoff against Baltimore, the Buffalo Bills would be 4-0, the only undefeated team in the conference, and the AFC East, for all intents and purposes, over already. In fact, even more so if the Bills go out and they beat New England. We're not going to talk about New England today, but if they go out and handle business at home against New England next week, they go to 5-0 with a victory over every team in the AFC East already. Man, that's just a wrap already. So keep in that perspective, okay? Now, there were 2 guys who on yesterday's show in real time, I felt like when I watched it back, I was far more critical of them than they deserve to be after spending time watching the film on Monday. I'm not saying either of these guys were standouts by any means after film review, but what I'm saying is I think I was too harsh on their play initially in the heat of the moment, those instant reactions from the show. One of them, each side of the ball. On the offensive side, it was right tackle Ryan Van Demark, which, again, he's starting for Spencer Brown, and a backup right tackle coming in is never an easy thing. On my previous show on Friday, I kind of forgot that I did this actually. Friday I talked about, 3 keys to a Bills victory. And one of my keys was not letting the absence of Spencer Brown, because it was obvious on Friday he wasn't going to play in this game, not letting Ryan Van Demark come in here and blow up the entire offensive line. So, keeping things, the expectations realistic with him is what it should have been. But I was kind of down on him like I expected him to be Spencer Brown. He's not Spencer Brown. But anyway, he was far better than I thought when I watched the film back and I saw some clips, not just with my own eyes, but from what I saw from a few people who are definitely smarter than me, especially when it comes to offensive linemen. Joe Marino pointed out something to me. Brandon Thorne, an expert on offensive lines, he actually cut up a 20-second clip of about 5 or 6 really, really good run blocking reps that Ryan Van Demark had. Now, he did have a few really bad pass pro reps. He definitely did whiff on that 4th down stupid shovel play to Khalil Shakir, which I still can't believe, 36 hours later that Joe Brady, that's the play he dials up on 4th and 2 there. And he missed that block. But you know what? It wouldn't have worked anyway because DeMario Davis would have been there to stuff it out and blow it up regardless. But my point was Ryan Van Demark was really good, especially in the running game. Ryan Van Demark had the 2nd highest PFF grade of anybody on the Bills offense. And again, as always, you take PFF grades with a complete grain of salt. But watching it back, he was definitely better than I thought he was. And I criticized the shit out of him on the show yesterday. So I was dead wrong about that. And then the other guy that I was relatively hard on. I wouldn't say overly critical, but DaQuan Jones. Maybe I should stop expecting DaQuan Jones to be Quinnen Williams or Jeffrey Simmons at this point of his career. Like, he was fine. DaQuan Jones is no superstar. DaQuan Jones is not even a star, at this point of his career. I've said pretty much all along, and I actually maintain this. I still say he's a Jag. Jag meaning just another guy. But that's not to say that he's useless either, which, sometimes I feel like I'm not coming out and directly saying that I think he's useless, but I feel like I'm implying that I consider him useless. He's not. He had a few real nice reps on Sunday against the Saints, including a sack, which, while it wasn't so like some highlight reel, Ed Oliver just blowing through the line and, making a highlight reel kind of sack, he did plant a blocker off him, and he was right there to stop the quarterback Rattler when he tried to start scrambling. So it was a nice play by DaQuan Jones, and, I thought he was pretty good. Now, I'm not going to heap too much praise on him, having said all that. He did whiff on a tackle. He was getting moved around more than I like to see out there. I guess, like I said, my real-time reaction was that he kind of played like garbage. And upon film review, that definitely was not the case. And then the last thing I'll say, too, is with the way Deion Walker's playing, and we'll talk about him in just a few minutes here. Between Walker's week-to-week improvement and Ed Oliver imminently will be back. Hopefully he'll be back soon anyway. Maybe a little bit of a lighter workload will benefit DaQuan Jones. So he's been out there a lot. He played 39 of the 66 defensive reps on Sunday. So there you go. Apologies to Ryan Van Demark and to DaQuan Jones for some more critical commentary on them yesterday than they deserved. Also, on the live show, and I fought with Joe from Queens about this, and as much as I hate to admit it, Joe was right and I was wrong. I did not, on the show yesterday, give nearly the proper credit to Cole Bishop that he deserves for that late second quarter interception. And after watching the film, I was really wrong there too. My in the moment thought was he made that play because it was a double reverse, and I think it was Olave who threw the football. It was Olave. He just had way too much air on it, not enough oomph, and just lobbed it up and gave Bishop, an opportunity to make the play. All that is true, but what you don't really see until you go back and you watch the film, both from the sideline view and the end zone view, was the recognition and the hustle from Cole Bishop on that play literally was as impressive as the actual one-handed interception itself, which was also a really good athletic play. Cole Bishop comes literally from the right hash mark. He recognizes that Rattler's going out towards the corner of the end zone, the right end zone, instantly recognizes that, and like a freight train just bolts full speed there to be in position where he can leap and he can make the one-handed grab. It's very, very impressive, especially when you watch it back and look to see where he comes from on that play. Like, that was like some Micah Hyde level shit right there on that play. And that's not hyperbole either. Now, the interception that Micah Hyde had in the playoffs against the Patriots, that'll always be, this era, one of this era's all-time great Bills highlights, as it should be. But making the catch is one thing where he kind of comes out of nowhere. But when you watch that play back on film and you see where Micah Hyde, where he started, where he came from, the recognition of where it was going, and getting himself in position to even make the play, that was impressive. Just as impressive as the interception itself. Ditto with Cole Bishop. Like I said, the recognition, the athleticism, the speed, and the wherewithal to get to the point of the field that he had to get to in an instant, that was some real impressive stuff. It really was. Cole Bishop had a few other good moments in this game as well, including some nice physical run tackles. I like what I'm seeing from him when it comes to being physical with running backs, tight ends, and receivers. There's no fear in that man's body when he goes to make a hit. And he looks pretty fundamentally sound when it comes to making tackles. Not perfect, but pretty sound. And he's been pretty good at tackling, which again, for this team, being a good tackler is pretty damn rare these days. Now, all that said, I don't want this to become, a Cole Bishop tribute show, because he is far from a finished product, or even polished at this point, I should say. Like, he got caught on one play. It was the touchdown to the Saints. I think he got caught a little bit watching the film, gazing into the quarterback Rattler's eyes for a split second too long on the Olave slant. Chris Olave starts it off outside, quick slant inside, beats Christian Benford inside. And there was nobody, if you watch the tape, there was nobody else for Bishop to need to cover. Like, his awareness wasn't there on that play. It looks to me, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. It looks to me like if he breaks a split second later to the left, he gets an opportunity to knock that ball down. The Saints only had two guys en route on that play, and the other one was on the other side of the field. And it looks to me on the tape like Dorian Williams was the one who was responsible for Rattler in case Rattler ran the ball. So it looked like just a quick little brain freeze that cost them right there. And then there was some other plays too, like I said, as well, especially none so more. In fact, the Bills got they got a lot lucky. That Spencer Rattler, what should have been a touchdown to Brandon Cooks. The broadcast said that Cole Bishop slipped on the play, and you couldn't really tell from the broadcast, but I'll tell you what, when you watch the film, Cole Bishop didn't slip. Brandon Cooks smoked him, and Bishop kind of went outside. He went inside. Then he slipped. He slipped because he got smoked, not because he just lost his footing. And Spencer Rattler just made an awful, awful, awful throw that was too low, and Cooks wasn't able to quite reel it in. So there's that. And that was a big point in the game, by the way. There was 9:01 left in that game, and had that throw been made, and just even an average NFL quarterback throw, and the Saints are up with 9 minutes left in the game, and who knows how that plays out. But it worked out for the Bills. So, some good, some bad. I would say all in all, it's been a promising few weeks for the young dude. And if we're being perfectly honest, if I am being 100% honest with you, I'm still not sold on Cole Bishop. I am hopeful on Cole Bishop. I feel more confident now than I did a month ago when it comes to Cole Bishop, but I am not going to go as far to say I am sold on him. There's players on this team, younger players, that I'm already sold on. Cole Bishop's not one of them. But I do see the promise and the potential there, and I do see the growth. I see the growth with communication. I see the growth now with some of the plays he's making. I'll say this. I think he's the better safety right now on the football field between him and Taylor Rapp at the moment. I know that's a whole other conversation and discussion, but Taylor Rapp being out of position, whiffing on tackles a lot, not really making plays. Like, he's an all or nothing type player. And when he's not making plays, it's like nothing. Cole Bishop seems to be a little more steady right now to me than Taylor Rapp. So I want to point that out. Like I said, an up and down game for Cole Bishop, but on yesterday's show, I dismissed his interception as no big deal. And that was absolutely, completely inaccurate. One other thing, then I want to get to a break here. The Bills' run defense, Jesus. It was just ghastly, awful in this football game. This has been pretty much all season, for the most part, not against the Jets and certain points of the Ravens game in the second half. But by and large, especially that run defense, it has been brutal. A combination of terrible tackling, guys out of position, and others just not winning their one-on-one battles. And God, you could see it on tape. It just sticks out like a sore thumb. Tackling absolutely brutal. And I mean brutal again. PFF charged them with 12 missed tackles for the game. I kind of feel like the Bills had 12 missed tackles on the Saints' first drive. And I'm not even being funny either. I'm being dead ass right now. Like that Kendre Miller touchdown run, like that is the poster right there, or the presentation video of what is wrong with the Buffalo Bills defense as a whole and the run defense specifically. I mean, that was as bad as it gets. Teron Johnson, who a couple years ago was a all-pro slot corner, whiffs, should have been a tackle for no gain. Teron Johnson, a free shot of him, reads the play right, and he just flat out whiffs on Miller. Then Taylor Rapp, who I just talked about a couple seconds ago. He's got a clear shot, hold him to a 7-yard gain or so, and what does Taylor Rapp do? He completely whiffs. And then maybe the worst part of that entire play for me was Trey White. I mean, you are not going to see a worse effort when it comes to a combination of not getting off a block. Brandon Cooks was blocking him. I don't even think he was really even trying to block it. He was just kind of standing in the way. I don't know what the hell Trey White was thinking on that play. But anyway, he doesn't get off the block well. And then just this lame attempt at a tackle. Now, Trey White has never been known for his tackling prowess. I know that. You know that. What's made Trey White a great corner when he was a great corner for the Buffalo Bills in the league, it was just a shutdown guy. He'll shut you down. He was never, a great run defender. Well, right now, you better be an improved run defender because you're not that guy when it comes to covering receivers anymore. Just an absolute ridiculously awful effort and attempt. And Trey White whiff. So 3 guys whiff, easy touchdown for Miller. That can't happen. There were several plays. The linebackers, Bernard and Dorian Williams, and we're going to get to Dorian Williams specifically here in a few minutes, missing tackles all over the place when not out of position altogether. And again, we'll talk about Williams in a few. Bernard does some things great. Like, he had a really good pressure. It should have been a sack. They only called it an incomplete pass. So I don't even know. Yeah, he did get, I guess he got credited for the hit and the pressure. He makes those kind of plays, which kind of, you got to live with the other things. And the other things are he picks the wrong gap sometimes, or he'll just get swallowed up by an offensive lineman if he doesn't beat you to the spot. Missing tackles. It's the good, the bad, the ugly with Terrell Bernard. The difference being, of course, like I said, he just has a knack for making big plays in the biggest moments. But not on Sunday. Wasn't very good. Guys getting caught out of position like crazy all over the place. All 3 levels, too. All 3. So Alvin Kamara had 3 runs in this game that went for more than 10 yards. 3 times in this game. Not 1, not 2. All 3 of those runs literally were around the left end, where all 3 times Joey Bosa got caught pinching in and or had an opportunity to get him and whipped on the tackle. So that starts it off. And then there's no one to be found. Again, linebackers, where are you? Especially on the second and the third runs that he had. He gets to the second level, and there's nobody there for at least 10 yards. Just brutal. But Joey Bosa, who's done some good things, and he had a very late strip sack fumble, which I'm just not going to put any stock into. The game was over at that point. But not a good game for Bosa when it comes to being disciplined, staying home, and most importantly, just making the tackle when the opportunity's there. And then too many guys just tied up and not winning those one-on-one battles throughout the front 7. Now, I'm not going to sit here and point a finger at one person because I feel like I can literally go up and down the line right now, everybody in the Bills' front 7, and show you a lot of instances where it looks like they should be getting off a block and making a play, and they're just not, or they're not holding gap integrity. They're in the wrong place. You could just see it. And the stats don't lie. The film don't lie. And in this case, the stats don't lie. 4 games in, the Bills are second last in rushing yards allowed. Thank you, Dallas Cowboys. They allow in 4.4 yards after contact per carry. That's dead ass last in the NFL. Teams are doing it mainly on the outside. They run inside, but also outside. Teams are running outside the tackles 63.3% of the time against the Buffalo Bills per ESPN Next Gen Stats. Most in the NFL. 23rd in EPA per rush. Dead last in runs allowed of at least 10 yards. 27th in yards over expected rushing. 24th in run stuff rate. This run defense just stinks. They stink right now. And this game affirms it even more, okay? And outside of the Ravens, they're not playing like these ground and pound offensive juggernauts either. It's just not good enough. It's good enough for them to be 4-0 right now, but it won't be good enough for them in January. If they don't figure out how to tackle better, get off blocks better, stay at home, be responsible, and make the fundamental play, what they're getting away with right now in September, they're not going to get away with in January. And we've seen this story before, too. So a lot there to work on. Anyway, let's take a real quick break, come back, and we'll start to fly through some more of my biggest takeaways from this Week 4 Buffalo Bills victory. All right, we are back here. Biggest takeaways post-film, the Buffalo Bills 4-0 after beating the New Orleans Saints on Sunday by 12. Spent a lot of time just criticizing the defense right there, and I told you there's one guy in particular I was saving it for, and it's Dorian Williams, man. This film, this game, just awful. I mean, this was as bad as it gets for a player like Dorian Williams. And look, if you know me, if you are a regular to this show, if you've heard me talk about him over the last couple of years, if you follow me on social media, I'm very much a pro Dorian Williams guy. Like, this is not a guy that I bash regularly. This is certainly not a guy that I have even 1 ounce of pride in criticizing, because I like him. I love the athletic. He's such a Tracy dude. He's a good dude. He's a hard worker. He's so physical. You know, I remember going back to it was a Jets game. It was Breece Hall. My favorite play of that entire game was a Dorian Williams blitz where he almost decapitated Breece Hall. He ran through him so hard. I made a clip of that. That was like the highlight of my entire day when I watched that Bills-Jets game back. There's a lot to like about Dorian Williams, but he is a flawed football player as well. Again, pro Dorian Williams, toolsy guy, got a lot of tools, but I'm telling you, he may have been the worst player on the football field for the Buffalo Bills in this last game on Sunday. Over pursuing, all over the place, lost, out of position, not good in coverage, whiffing on tackles, all over the place. PFF only charged me with 1 missed tackle. I counted 3, unless I'm blind right now. So that's not accurate. What is accurate is the PFF grade for him, which was 29.8 overall, worse on the team by a lot, and a 27.4 PFF cover grade. Again, sometimes PFF, it just doesn't feel, it doesn't pass the field test. It certainly does there. He had the worst grade, and I agree with it, because I felt like he was the worst player on this team. And that's just like the physical mistakes. Maybe, and again, if you follow me on Twitter, and I totally overreacted to it because I spent 20 minutes going nuts over it. But we talked about that Cole Bishop interception near the end of the second quarter earlier in the show. So Bishop makes this incredible play, picks the ball off, runs it out to the 14-yard line. Now, there's 1:31 left in the half still. The Saints are getting the ball to start the second half. The Bills are going to have one more opportunity to, maybe put some points on the board. They don't have any timeouts, but they still got 1:31 left, and they're not up against their own end zone. They can run their full offense because they're out at the 14-yard line. Well, guess what? No, they didn't get to start from the 14-yard line, because on the Cole Bishop interception and subsequent return, Dorian Williams had an absolute boneheaded and 100% the right call from the officials. Blindside block, completely and utterly unnecessary. The guy wasn't making the play. Dorian Williams just wanted to get off and hit somebody. Just attribute it to a complete and utter brain fart in the moment. And because of that play, the Bills ended up starting their drive on their 3. Now you're in let's get out of the end zone mode, and they try to run it, and disaster strikes, or near disaster, I should say, strikes for the Bills. Even more because they get back-to-back penalties, and now they're like inside their 2-yard line, and now it's just let's survive the half, which they ended up doing. But to me, I look at that Dorian Williams play, that took away the Bills coming out in an aggressive manner with 1:31 left, because from their own 14, they're opening up that passing game. But you can't do that when you're inside your 3. If The substitute, Ryan Van Demark, gets a hold in the end zone. That's a safety, man. That's a safety. So that's on 100% Dorian Williams, and I was losing my shit when it came to that pretty much all of halftime. So there was that. And then it looked to me like he got benched late in the fourth quarter. Now, I didn't personally hear it, but I did talk to somebody from the media who said that Dorian Williams got nicked up because Shaq Thompson was in on their base nickel on the Bills' second last series of the game alongside Terrell Bernard. There was no Dorian Williams out there. And then on their very last series, they played exclusively a dime, so Bernard was the only guy out there. I thought Dorian Williams got benched. Apparently, he got dinged up. He should have got benched. That's kind of my point. Shaq Thompson, right now, 2 straight weeks to me has looked very impressive out there. Very, very impressive out there right now. If Matt Milano can't be back for this New England game, and Sean McDermott said him, Oliver, Spencer Brown, they're all improving. They're all trending the right way. But if Matt Milano's not back for this game, I am more than ready to see Shaq Thompson out there. I'm ready to see if Milano's back. I'm ready to see Shaq Thompson as that third linebacker. And if they play their base with 2 linebacker nickel defense, I'm ready to see Shaq Thompson over Dorian Williams because Shaq Thompson has looked very impressive to me. Plus, he's a intelligent veteran over Dorian Williams, who, again, he was just awful in this football game. If I'm being honest, okay, and you ask me right now, who among the 2025 Buffalo Bills do I feel the least enthusiastic about now as I did before the season? I feel like it would be a coin flip between Dorian Williams and TJ Sanders. One of those 2 guys. Now, the difference being TJ Sanders is 4 games into his rookie year at a very tough position to physically get acclimated to and get good at in the NFL, while Williams is in his 3rd season. There's no reason for him to be out of position and missing plays and making dumb penalties like he did in this football game. Very, very, very disappointing outing from a guy that I like a lot. And speaking of, I mentioned TJ Sanders. It's a tale of 2 rookie defensive tackles continue to go down that path that we've been seeing since week 1. And again, the film really illustrated that yet again in this football game. The good, DeAndre Walker, he's really starting to flash. Really starting to flash. He had 2, not just run stuffs for a loss, but 2 eye-opening tackles for a loss in the first half of that game on Sunday. And it was awesome to go back and look at. The first one, he throws off the center, Trevor Penning, and he hits Kamara for a loss, a solo stuff by himself. And then later on in the half, he throws off the right guard, Cesar Ruiz, who got hurt that game later on. And he brought him down for a loss too. Like, DeAndre Walker is flashing more and more and more, and it's awesome, awesome to see. Now, having said that, I like to use the word flash when it comes to DeAndre Walker because the consistency is not there yet, not quite there yet anyway. Like, we see the highlights, and those are great, but there's plenty of plays on tape where he's still playing a bit too upright, a bit too stiff. And it's a lot easier for him, especially being a big dude like that, to just get stood up, or in some cases even moved out a little bit too easy. Now, it's a process, but boy, oh boy, is it. It's easy to be excited about him and to be excited about the prospect of DeAndre Walker, who continues to get better, playing a lot of snaps with Ed Oliver later in the season. And I'll tell you this, and it might not even be this year because DaQuan Jones ain't going nowhere. But if DeAndre Walker can eventually learn how to be more of a one tech and play alongside Ed Oliver for 50% of his snaps during a football game, look out, man. Look out. TJ Sanders, complete opposite. Unfortunately, for the guy they traded up for in the second round, it's been a much, much tougher go for TJ Sanders. He hasn't found his footing yet on the field and is glaringly, and I mean glaringly obvious too. Like, there's way too many plays where, like against the run, he's just getting handled one-on-one, moved around, losing the gap integrity that he's supposed to have on plays. And again, I'm no guru, but even I could see it out a lot of plays. He's just not making the play. Just not making the play. And because other teams know they could just get him with one guy, they're double teaming DaQuan Jones, or they're double teaming Jordan Phillips or Deion Walker or Zion Logue, whoever it may be next to him. And then in pass rush situations, not sure what it is, but it's just not there right now. Like, he's playing. He played 2 more snaps in his game than Walker, but you wouldn't know it. Now, this is an unpopular opinion, an unpopular take, but I'm going to say it anyway. You know, 3rd round pick Landon Jackson essentially is being redshirted this year. If injuries or maybe even multiple injuries don't pop up, you're probably not going to see much, or if anything, of Landon Jackson this year. Michael Hoyt's going to be back 2 more games. 2 more games and he could come back. So he falls even further down the pecking order. I think this may become the course of action for TJ Sanders as well. Between the combination of Ed Oliver being back hopefully soon, and then you also got 2 more games before Larry Ogunjobi can be activated, you might see a lot of an inactive TJ Sanders once he gets to that point and beyond. But we're clear on this, I hope. It doesn't mean I'm down on the guy's future, okay? It doesn't always click early in your rookie season for everybody, especially guys who are playing in the trenches, and the difference between going up against college football offensive linemen and some of the best offensive linemen in the NFL, right? It's not easy, and quite often, more often than not, it takes time, okay? Let's not compare TJ Sanders to being the next freaking Boogie Basham, 2nd round bust so quickly, okay? But I just think it's pretty apparent that right now, he's just not ready. He's just not ready to be out there, and he is certainly not being an asset right now as things speak. As I speak, I should say, at this time, as things stand, he's not an asset to this football team. And if they could get Oliver back soon, and like I said, Ogunjobi, don't be surprised if Sanders spends some games out there in a tracksuit. As for Trey White, I mentioned him earlier. Pretty brutal showing, especially early. 2 defensive holds. That god-awful effort I already described on that tackle attempt. Now, he was replaced in this game a couple times by Dorian Strong for a few series. Strong played 15 snaps. After the game, Sean McDermott tried to downplay it, say, wasn't anything that Trey White did wrong. He's trying to get his young guy some valuable reps, and that was the plan coming in. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Sean McDermott's a liar. I don't know, so I'd be guessing, and it's not my place to say something like that. I could even buy the let's get Dorian Strong some reps thing. Maybe, especially because you're playing the Saints and you figured that you would have an easier go at it. But more than anything else, whether you believe Sean McDermott or whether you think Trey just got benched a couple times, like as an attempt for a wake-up call, whichever side of the fence that you fall on, I think it's more them preparing for what is starting to feel inevitable. And that's at some point coming to grips that Trey White is simply not going to get the job done. And with Max Harrison having lost so much time this summer, I would love to be wrong. I could be wrong, but I don't expect much, if anything, from Max Harrison this year because of that reason. I think they very well may end up depending on Dorian Strong at a critical point this year, whether it's for a banged-up Christian Benford or whether it's for a healthy and ultimately benched Trey White. So we're almost through this episode. I've barely even talked about the offense. Not going to really spend time talking about it because there really isn't a lot to say that doesn't feel like wash, rinse, repeat with this offense, which is obviously a very, very, very good thing. They scored 30 points again, like they always seem to do. And I'll also give them credit for doing that this game because they did it the harder way. Like in this game, the defense didn't set them up with points, whether it was directly or indirectly, whether they scored or special team scores or big special teams returns, anything like that. Like the Bills earned all their points. Their drive starts, they were from their own 21, 34, 13, 3, 28, 3, 20, 31, 40, 41. Not counting the last drive at the very end of the game where they took a knee after the Saints got stopped. All the rest of the drive started in their own territory. None of them passed their own 40-yard line, and 2 of them started inside their own 3. So they had to go down the field and earn their points, and they did. Josh Allen had a pick, but who gives a shit, by the way? That's an interception I'm never going to get mad at. It wasn't like it was an awful decision. It wasn't like it was an awful throw. Could he have made a slightly better throw, maybe a little tiny bit less air in it? Maybe. But more than anything else, I just thought the safety, I think it was Sanker, he just made a great play. Sometimes you got to tip your cap to the opposition. Just made a good play. Got there, got in position, and made the play. So Josh was fine in this game. Even by his standards, he was fine. But then when he got into that, I said it yesterday, I'd got to have it mode when the game feels like it's in the balance, when they need it. That's when Josh Allen does the things that makes him an MVP. He rips off, it's 3rd and 5, rips off that 27-yard run that'll go down, I'm sure, in his career highlight reel. It was just gorgeous. Follows it up with a TD pass to Kincaid. Play action, perfect throw. Just Josh being Josh, right? James Cook had over 100 yards for a 3rd straight game. Also played 73% of the snaps. Second highest of his career, by the way. That was the second highest percentage of snaps James Cook has ever played. James Cook is elevating, and he's becoming a legitimate star in this league. Not just in Buffalo, but around the league. Khalil Shakir, on one play, he shows you why he's not just your average, handy-dandy, productive slot receiver. He has that extra gear that a lot of those guys don't have. That contact balance, and you saw it again on Sunday. Kincaid only had 1 catch, but hey, he made the most of it. An offensive line that did not have Spencer Brown, they were fine. So the offense was the offense. Now, one interesting thing about the offense was Curtis Samuel returned, which is funny. When the inactives came out, I didn't even realize he was playing. I'm so used to him not playing. I was going through some scenarios. I'm like, I didn't even realize he was playing. Well, he did. And I was wondering, who does the addition of Curtis Samuel take snaps away from? One, Keon Coleman, he played 73%, far and away the most. Wasn't really Khalil Shakir either, no surprise. The answer, unsurprisingly, was mainly Josh Palmer, Eli Moore, and Tyrell Shavers. Samuel played 20 snaps, so 34%. Moore played 18 snaps, 31%. Josh Palmer played just 15 snaps, just 25% of the snaps. Not going to talk about that today because it's not a takeaway from this game, but maybe I'll talk with that a little more in detail with Matt Warren on tomorrow's show. Tyrell Shavers, 14 snaps, 24%. But yeah, Palmer, 25% of the snaps. Little surprising to me. Hard to complain about the offense, but again, Palmer, just 15 snaps is not ideal for a guy who they paid a pretty significant penny to add to the team. Of course, they paid a significant penny to Curtis Samuel as well. Palmer's not letting him, play well. 3 catches, or two catches, 3 targets, 25 yards. Nice catch early in the game. I was locked in on him because one of my bold predictions for the game was him scoring a touchdown, but didn't even get an opportunity. Samuel did have 1 catch for 9 yards in the game, ran 8 yards. No touches for Elijah Moore. After two games where he made the most of his limited touches the last 2 weeks, didn't touch the ball. This game, ditto for Shavers. And then the last thing, special teams. The Bills elected to have Brandon Condrington be a healthy scratch. Samuel returned kicks, and I thought he was fine. He had 3 returns, averaged 27.3 yards per return. Watching back on film, I didn't see him missing any potential holes. He didn't make any wrong decisions on his returns. He didn't hit any holes. And, that Codgerton probably doesn't, do the same thing. So I got no issues with him doing that. And at least he's going to bring some value at receiver. So if he's going to just do the same job that Codgerton does, it's a no-brainer to have Samuel active in that role because he can bring something to the wide receiver room as well, where Codgerton brings nothing to the DB room. Punting, though, or punt returns, I should say, Khalil Shakir was back there. Handled 1 for 6 yards, ran out of bounds, and he fielded a fair catch. I hate, and I mean hate, the thought of Khalil Shakir being back there returning punts. And I hope that changes quickly. I really do. It is not worth the risk of Khalil Shakir back there getting hurt on a punt return. No way, no how. Now, if it's the playoffs, maybe. Week 4, week 5, week 7, week 10, not a freaking chance. I really, really, really hope Tabor, the special teams coordinator, puts the kibosh to that. Now, I'm good with not having Brandon Condriton out there. That's fine. But put Elijah Moore or Curtis Samuel. Either let them get to work during the week. I know a lot of people say Keon because he's returned punts before. No, he's another one. I ain't getting him hurt returning punts, and I'm not getting Shakir hurt returning punts. Put Moore back there or put Samuel back there. That's just ridiculous. Anyway, all right. Going to do it for this show. Went long. There's a lot to get to, and a lot I actually didn't even get to as well. Tomorrow's show, Matt Warren from SB Nation joins me as he does every week. We do our positional report card and analysis. We're going to go position by position. Matt will tell you what he liked, what he didn't like. We'll go through some numbers, and ultimately he will assign a grade. And then we will start to look ahead to the New England Patriots, who I know was the Carolina Panthers, but they smacked the shit out of them last week, which, by the way, the Panthers the week before that smacked the shit out of the Atlanta Falcons. So, again, it's the NFL, and it's hard to win in the NFL. So, a tough opponent, divisional opponent coming up in the New England Patriots, and we will get to them starting on the show tomorrow. So, thank you very much for watching, for listening. Appreciate you. Be back. Brand new show. Matt Warren joins me tomorrow.